Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a really fascinating framework, literally a paradigm shift, called From Aging Seniors to Guiding Adults. It's all about radically transforming our older population from a passive demographic into an active guiding force. Okay, let's dive into this. Right off the bat, I want you to think about a crazy modern paradox. Why is our society so profoundly lonely, even though we're living longer than ever? Well, the diagnosis we're exploring today is super specific. We aren't lonely just because we lack friends or peers. We're lonely because we lack true mentors. We're missing actual adults above us. The idea here is that if we had real adults genuinely looking out for us, guiding the younger generations, this whole pervasive sense of isolation, it would just evaporate. The root problem is a massive lack of structural guidance. And this brilliantly illustrates the core contrast we're talking about. Look at the left side, the traditional concept of a senior. In this framework, being a senior is entirely passive. You're basically just passing the time, getting older, and often dealing with that exact isolation we just talked about. But look at the right side, the adult. This philosophy argues that true adults have a vital, active job to do. They're meant to guide the natural order and actually offer wisdom to society. It's like, just as parents guide their kids, true adults are supposed to actively guide the younger generations. It's a hugely purposeful role. So, you're probably wondering, how exactly does an adult do this guiding? Well, it all hinges on a concept translated as words of wisdom. But, and this is a really important distinction, we are not talking about lecturing. This isn't about stubbornly pushing personal biases or just nagging younger people. Speaking words of wisdom is the strict act of speaking purely for the benefit of society and the listener. If you're forcing your own agenda, you're just talking. But if your words are entirely for the community's sake, that transforms into real words of wisdom. Basically, an adult is fundamentally defined by their ability and their profound duty to pass this wisdom downward. Now, you might be thinking, hey, don't we all just naturally become adults by getting older? According to this source material, the answer is a massive, resounding no. Transitioning from a passive senior into an active adult does not happen just because you've flipped enough calendar pages. It takes deliberate, step-by-step preparation of both your mind and your body. You literally have to train for it. There's a clear roadmap to build the capacity to lead and offer this necessary wisdom. The speaker breaks this transformation down into a specific 3-step methodology. Step 1 is all about regaining your physical health and vital energy. Step 2 is where adults actively study and verify proper societal education, which they call right principles. And Step 3 is the grand finale, successfully speaking that verified wisdom out into society. It's a beautifully logical progression, right? You need the energy to speak, you need the right material to say, and then you have to execute. Let's actually unpack what these requirements mean, starting with the physical side of things. Step 1 involves practices like Taekwondo, Qi training, and Danjin breathing. Now, wait a minute. Why on earth do you need martial arts and breathing exercises just to talk? It's kind of counterintuitive, but it's a fascinating point. This isn't about generic fitness or just finding a hobby to pass the time. It is strictly functional. To speak powerfully, to actually deliver those words of wisdom effectively, you need a tremendous amount of vital energy. You have to circulate your energy through practices like Danjin breathing so that your words carry real force and clarity. Basically, it's intense physical prep for a massive societal duty. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the immense responsibility placed on these folks in Step 2. Once they have that physical energy, what exactly are they talking about? This is where Young Bub, or right principles, basically correct societal education comes in. But the adults don't just blindly echo whatever they hear. They act as society's filter. If a new idea or principle emerges, it has to go to the adults first. They study it, they listen, and they actively verify if it's actually correct and beneficial. Only after the adults give it the green light can it be released to the rest of the world. To pull this off on a massive scale, the speaker proposes a total structural overhaul. The big idea? Move completely away from traditional seniors associations or community centers and establish adults associations instead. And look, this is way more than just a slick rebranding. It's a total shift in purpose. A traditional seniors association is painted as a place where older folks just gather to kill time. But an adults association, that is a highly deliberate, purpose-driven organization entirely dedicated to training, verifying those societal principles, and gearing up to guide the nation. The source text even provides a logistical playbook for building this from the ground up. The main advice is to start small. Literally, even just 10 members is enough to get the ball rolling. From there, you set up a formal legal entity. Their day-to-day operations are entirely focused on that constant verification of societal education we talked about. And finally, there's a strict, absolute requirement, securing independent funding, which actually brings us to a really critical strategic point. So the crucial point is how these groups actually keep the lights on without compromising their authority. The funding rule is incredibly strict here. On the left side, we have government funding. The argument is that if adults take government money, it instantly leads to government interference. They become subordinate to the state. I mean, think about it. How can you confidently guide the government if you're living off their handouts? You just can't. That's why, on the right side, independent funding is totally mandatory. They rely on private foundations, or what the text calls social parents. So if these adults need hearing aids, office equipment, or basic support to do their work, it absolutely has to come from independent societal groups. That's how they keep their overarching authority intact. Let's move to and see how this builds over time. The speaker uses a fantastic visual metaphor here. It's like planting a tiny tree seed. You don't just instantly spawn a massive oak tree, you plant the seed and nurture it. On day one, you form that first small adults association. Fast forward just 6 months of training doing Taekwondo and studying principles, and these groups are expected to produce a rock-solid track record of improved health and renewed purpose. Once they show off those results, a massive domino effect kicks in. Traditional seniors associations are going to see this crazy new vitality and voluntarily decide to convert. The whole transformation happens organically because the results speak for themselves. And the vision here? It goes way beyond just one country's elderly population. We're talking about a massive, almost geopolitical claim. The framework argues that the nation, and essentially the whole world, is currently stuck at a 70% growth state. Basically, a society that's 70% grown has hit a massive brick wall. It absolutely cannot progress any further without the true, genuine guidance of adults. Once these adults associations are fully up and running nationally, the ultimate goal is to export the whole model. The dream is for these true adults to guide all of humanity right past that 70% barrier. Which brings us to the emotional climax of The Explainer, where the stakes get incredibly real. Just listen to this direct quote from the source. Do people commit suicide because they have an adult? They want to die because they have nothing to do. The argument here is incredibly passionate. It says the despair, the feelings of worthlessness, and the tragically high suicide rates among the elderly, those aren't just inevitable side effects of getting old. They happen because these folks have been entirely stripped of their societal purpose. By giving them back their role as the ultimate guides of society, this paradigm shift aims to wipe out that despair completely. Because when you have a vital, urgent job to do for the generations below you, giving up just isn't an option anymore. Which leaves us with a final, profound question to mull over. Are you simply aging into a passive senior, or are you actively preparing your mind and body to become a guiding adult? This entire philosophy challenges us to reject that passive, slow slide into old age, and instead embrace a highly rigorous, incredibly purpose-driven final act. It is a completely radical way to look at our lifespans, our societal structures, and what we owe to each other. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I really hope this gives you a ton to think about regarding your own life's trajectory.